This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
You're welcome back into the conversation. It is Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name is Stephen Imediego. I'm here with Nabila Usman. And this morning, we're going to be talking about the possible regulation of social media. Now, this conversation is coming back to the fore following a statement by the Chief of Staff to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, to the effect that social media has become a societal menace that, quote, should be regulated. The former Speaker of the House of Representatives said this while representing the President at the book launch of Babatunde Fashola, who's a former Minister of Works. He was speaking in Lagos last week. Now, the book by Fashola is titled Nigerian Public Discourse, The Interplay of Empirical Evidence and Hyperbole. And then we go to some of the quotes that Mr. Gbajabiamila made at this launch. Quote, social media has become a societal menace and must be regulated. As many people do not understand that once the send button is hit, there is a potential to reach millions of people around the world, which is capable of causing a great danger, not just in the society, but even unintended consequences to the individuals that are receiving information that may include security of life. To help us to understand the implications of social media regulation and probably to talk to us about some of the other steps that have been made outside of Nigeria in regards of regulating or managing social media, we turn to tech journalist Hanatu Favor Ashoge. Good morning, Ms. Hanatu, and thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Good morning.
Good morning. To jump right into it, what do you make of Mr. Gbajabiamila's comments regarding the possible regulation of social media?
Well, while I do see where he's coming from, the idea that social media is a menace generally is very vague and open to broad interpretations. And this regulation along these lines will definitely lead to, harsh punishment simply for criticizing authorities, right? In other countries where social media is being regulated, the regulation is along specific lines rather than just being broadly termed as a menace or being evil, right? For example, in New Zealand, social media is regulated, but just along the lines where it is not being used to promote terror activities. Because at a point, there was a shooting that was live streamed on social media. In places like the European Union, it's the same, right? In places like Russia, for example, the reason why it's being regulated is just so that people do not bring certain political conversations to the timeline. So it would make more sense if Femi Gbajabiamila had a specific thing people were not supposed to use social media for, rather than just saying, oh, it's a menace and it's an evil to society. This is a very open statement and will be open to various interpretations, which is something we do not want to end up with.
So it's interesting that you refer to, all these other countries and how they regulate social media and the why, right? Which is what you're harping on now. Interestingly, if you look at, for instance, the European Union, what they do is that they go directly to the social media companies and they set these rules and regulations, as opposed to Nigeria, where when we tried it, what we did was shut down Twitter, for instance, or other countries where they're shutting down the internet altogether around sensitive periods such as election time. We saw that in Senegal, where they're having protests. They're also shutting down access to the internet in certain areas. So I want us to start with the impact of shutting down or regulating social media in the first place, no matter what the sort of regulation is. What do we see when that happens?
So because Nigeria is a very unique country, in quotes, social media regulation is going to have a very negative impact, right? Because for a lot of us in the country, social media is almost like the it's almost like the place where people get heard or get a semblance of justice, right? So we see where people are in danger, and the first place they can think of going to is social media, because for some reason even government or government authorities react to issues on social media faster than in real life. So regulating social media for a country like Nigeria is in a way taking some power away from Nigerians, right? Social media in Nigeria has come to mean, a place where people can be heard and get justice. So that is why it's a very, very sensitive matter. We cannot afford to say that, oh, because some other countries are regulating social media, we will do the same. We are not the context of Nigeria is not the same with Russia or New Zealand, for example. So we cannot afford to try to replicate what they're doing.
Mm. Well, the continuous insistence on regulating social media is not something that has gone down well on social media with Nigerians. There have been arguments around the comments made by Nigerians about Nigeria continue to demarket Nigeria. So I wonder if you can speak to us really about what exactly it is that social media does, the positive aspects of social media, and how I reckon, especially because we're talking about figures in the public space, how governments can benefit from the use of social media.
So the thing with social media, interestingly, is that the features are also the flaws, right? If one person can use social media to bring attention to a certain issue, another person, I mean, it means everyone has that platform. So it has kind of leveled the playing field for everyone. I can go on social media and write a tweet directed at the minister, and they will see it, right? So it could be something good, but it also could be something, really nasty at the same time. So, yes, that is really it. We cannot, I mean, a lot of people use social media for, really terrible things. We have seen a lot of fake news being spread on social media. It has, in a way, just added fuel to a lot of fires in the country, from ethnic bigotry, religious bigotry, all of that. But also, while those are the flaws, it also still ties down to its features, which means, people have a platform where they can amplify their voices. I really do believe that for every one person who uses social media for something negative, there's five other people who are benefiting from social media. And again, while I do think that a big reason why people have the platform to use social media for certain negative vices, especially regarding to politics or the government, is because the governments themselves are not fully utilizing the platform, right? So people can spread fake news sometimes because the approved government bodies are not very quick to come and say what exactly is happening, right? So you give people that window to pick up fake news and just run with it.
Mm. Well, so I want to take your mind back to the time when Twitter was actually banned in Nigeria by the Buhari administration. And the stories around exactly what it cost entrepreneurs to see a medium like Twitter become inaccessible for a period of time. Can you talk to us regarding the sort of pitfalls that businesses and entrepreneurs rather would face if a social media was, can I say, regulated or banned? And I'm not sure which one applies in this particular case.
Okay, so the thing is, Nigerians are currently the most online people in the world, right? The average Nigerian spends about 4 hours every day on social media, and this is about 2 hours more than the global average of like 2 hours 30 minutes. So we spend a lot of time online, and because we do that, a lot of things that we do or need we find online. Shopping, for example, social commerce is now a big thing in Nigeria. People buy nearly everything on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. So there's lots of entrepreneurs who are depending on these platforms to make us. People find jobs on Twitter. People find jobs on Facebook. All of these things. And taking that away is taking people's voices, people's powers, but also taking people's sources of livelihood. During the Twitter ban, businesses suffered. Thousands of businesses had to shut down. People were getting low patronage. It's something that should not happen again, really. From an economic perspective, it should just never happen again.
So, as we wrap up, right, let's talk about the sort of regulations it is that our government should be looking at. Because earlier you did note that, look, it does constitute a menace of sorts. And if it didn't, countries across the world would not be having the conversations that they're having, would not be taking the moves they're taking to protect the social fabric, because it's beyond the economics now. It's also the social fabric of a society. What should Nigeria be looking at when we speak of social media regulation? How is it going to be acceptable to the people? How will it be beneficial in such a way that both government and the people agree to it?
Well, it also ties back to what you said in the beginning. You mentioned that for other countries, they go straight to the platforms rather than the people, right? So there is space for the Nigerian government to liaise with these platforms to ensure that, certain steps are taken for accounts that spread fake news, for accounts that stoke, ethnic, religious bigotry. It could be faster response time, because on platforms like Twitter, we see cases where someone is spreading fake news or being bigoted, and people keep reporting, and it takes days for that certain accounts to be taken down. Sometimes it doesn't even get taken down at all, right? So there could just be, these platforms could just have maybe faster response times rather than the Nigerian government coming directly at the individuals. It would make more sense if they used the standards or the policies that these platforms already have in place, but just make them better.
Well, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. Our guest on the conversation, Hannatu Favour Ashoge, is a tech journalist, and she joined us this morning to speak on the conversation around banning social media by Nigerian public officials. That's all this week for Tech Now. Join us next time around when we return with another edition of Tech Now. Good morning.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM.